Incremental routines. I'm going to react and expand with my 2 cents in this video that is from the Supermemo, a fool's guide to Supermemo. One of the videos that doesn't showcase Supermemo software. It's about the philosophy behind Supermemo. And that is why I'm reacting this as standalone. About half an hour. And I can guarantee I will take more than that. And back in the day, that's my own comment 3 years ago. I became my Elon Musk version of myself once I ended the learning in the formal education system. What an irony. I am back to the school system, educational system, doing an MBA. But there's a reason, not the motive of this video. So let's keep going.
Okay, so
Start.
welcome to our new lesson, and in today's lesson we're gonna
Again, lesson. I will never say lesson in a YouTube video.
talk about something that's probably overlooked by many when studying. When I see people discussing learning, a lot of them always focus on the wrong things. We maybe focus on the techniques, the methods, the tools, right? But if you have a toolbox and you don't have the right work ethic, you just burn out. You cannot work 22 hours a day, and you cannot work two. Because in one case you burn out, in the other one you starve. And I've seen this a lot among med students. The burning out, the I need to study no matter what. Like there is no such thing as maybe I just need to take a step back. Maybe I'm not good at taking 5 courses together. Maybe I will just take 3 this semester, take 1 year more to graduate, and it's gonna be better for my mental health. Maybe because I have hobbies or side jobs or whatever. Our current curriculum in Italy makes it very hard in certain universities to graduate.
I wonder what's the difference between the US and Italy regarding medical school. So I know that yes, in the US it's easier because all of the exams are just multiple choice questions.
In the time frame that they schedule for you, it should be 6 years. But as soon as you find one bad professor, one bad exam, it can go downhill pretty fast. And I think that this is what
I wonder why. So with a bad professor, it can go bad in the sense that you will have a failing grade, it will be hard to pass the exam, and all of those sorts. But I'm not sure which way he's going. Or he means that it's a lot harder to be motivated if you have a bad teacher, even if you are inclined with the subject.
really screws up our mind. We have this idea of I'm not passing the exams, I'm not doing well. The problem with that reasoning is that the exams are a, sorry for the very strong word, but a rotten framework. What does that mean? Like exams, like you should care about the exams if our was an ideal word, and if exams were absolutely objective, and even then they would be just evaluating your ability to perform some task.
Usually, if in the most purest way, a test analyzes your ability to take the test. There's one exam that I did about English proficiency, the TOEFL. The TOEFL doesn't assess your ability, your proficiency in English language as a second language learner. The TOEFL just assesses how well you have your skills to take itself, the TOEFL. Because the exam, the exercises are so artificial and constructed that you have to prepare for that. Very artificial. Without going to details, very artificial. So if I don't prepare this ahead of time and I just go with what I speak every day, I will pass the exam as I did, but the grade will be a lot lower. That if I would optimize to learn how to pass this exam, the structure of these artificial settings and exercises that they have. The test no longer assesses my proficiency level. The test assesses my ability to take the test. I no longer optimize to learn the language. I optimize to get a good grade on the exam, which is a completely different thing.
Exams do not give you value as a person, and in general, many tasks do not require hard skills like math to be a decent person. Okay, like kindness, being thoughtful, being empathetic. Those are qualities that we should strive to reach. Not hard work for the sake of hard work, which is what we do when our exams do not go as intended. When you maybe have low marks, and when you score badly on some of them, because you're human, and each and every one of us makes mistake. We have ups and downs. There's no perfect solution. Like, this is the thing. There is no perfect solution inside this framework for happiness, because it's not up to you. Many times it's up to how you get evaluated. I know that in the Anglo-Saxon model of university, it's very different. Like, they try to stay as objective as possible, which is way better, like way better than what we're doing here. At the same time, even there are problems. There are always problems because the mechanism through which,
if you want to be more objective, there's no other alternative to be more standardized. That everyone gets the same questions. Is a multiple choice question. The correct one is this one. Everyone is treated the same. The same criteria. If there are short questions, then you could answer with an answer, but this answer has some subjectivity because yes, the response to the question mentions the key points, but how it's how it's reviewed, it will have some variation. To make the same analogy with TOEFL, at least the speaking, by the way, you speak to a computer, not to a human. Then you get 3 reviews, I think, 3 people. And then you get like an average kind of thing. Why? To reduce the subjectivity of the reviewer. Because could be that 3 people listen to the same recorded audio and assess a different score, slightly different score. It's less objective. So if you standardize it, it will be more harmful for everyone, by the way, but it's more objective.
they evaluate you are based on like human fallacies. The knowledge that is required to know you is usually detached from reality, redundant. A lot of, let's say you're a computer science major, okay? When you, I've heard a lot of...
I didn't graduate. That was the first degree I studied in the university. And I moved on in 2008. And even though I did 2 full years, I noticed that I did a lot of subjects with almost zero applicability. Good to know the theory behind that. I did computer science, but I did a lot of math, pure math, by the way. Calculus, algebra, discrete mathematics, logics, electronics, physics. That I didn't succeed at that one. Digital, how the computer works. I don't even know the name. Computer, how the old computer work with assembly, language, all of that. But hey, I want to program, I want to code. When I will do that, right? So much theory that has no applicability in real life. But if you're a purist, yeah, at some degree, if you want to be an engineer, you require this base. But Even with practical subjects like databases, there was a huge mismatch. There's one anecdote that one classmate, he was already working, and he was working with databases specifically, and he failed the databases course because he was applying what he was doing in real life without specifics. Let's say that it's you have different gates and so on. Old man, that it's not the optimum. Of course, it's not the optimum, but it's the cheapest solution. And at the end of the day, even if it's a suboptimal way to do it, since it's always the same gate, it becomes a lot easier. Logical gate, it's a lot easier. So, so what happened? That he failed because no, you are supposed to do all of this like in the most academic and purist way that no one uses in the real world. So yeah, you learn all of stuff, a lot of information, but stays in the academia. No, it's not applied in the real world.
Senior programmers in interviews on YouTube and stuff, talking about how junior programmers, like freshly graduated, behave. And I've seen the same, for example, among writers. When I teach writers how to write, like people.
He teaches writers? I knew he was a writer, like in his side hustle. Oh wow! So he's really a pro with writing, and I think he ended up giving up, moving on from medical school, quitting medical school, to become a full-time writer. I think.
People who never faced the reality of the job just because they got some high marks. For example, if you're a writer and you maybe scored high in literature, or maybe you wrote some essays that your professor thought were great, that does not mean that you can necessarily write narrative fiction.
Correct.
Or for computer science that you can establish yourself into maybe some kind of legacy code that they're using in an old company, and you want to change everything instead of doing things as they should be, because you're detached from reality, and that's what university is like. You're very detached from reality. In Italy, with medicine, is particularly bad. Like after 6 years, you cannot really do anything as a doctor, even though you get a doctor certificate. Like you're a doctor. As soon as you graduate, you're a doctor. But you cannot really do much with that. The main problem, going back...
At least I don't know, in Italy, in Spain, after those 6 years, you have to do a specialty. You have to do the specialization. Cardiology, neuro, whatever. There are like 40-something different ones.
Back to the main point of this argument is that we're working with a very, very screwed framework. Our framework is so screwed, and we base all our beliefs around that framework. But that framework doesn't work. Like, that's the problem. Our framework is not working, and we're basing our happiness on that. In learning, there's a very simple rule, like simple trick. Like
he said learning, not studying, by the way. What's a simple rule?
Like one YouTube simple trick, how this man became a millionaire. Jokes aside, it's nothing complicated. Supermemo exposes that very quickly. So, when is your learning not working? Okay, because sometimes while I browse on Reddit, for example, on Medical Anki, I see people asking, "Oh, I cannot really do my daily reps. I feel like down because I cannot blast those 3,000 repetitions a day." By the way, if you do more than, I would say 300 repetitions a day, you're probably just not reading the text. That's probably what's happening. Like more than 300, I would say for the average person, 300.
That heavily depends on the items. Assuming all of the items are for medical school, yeah, those are tough. But if most of what you do is language learning, then this becomes easier, a lot easier to do hundreds of repetitions.
500 is the upper limit at which, at least for myself, I tested my comprehension, and all the cards were made by myself, not by others. So, like, it was faster pattern recognition for me. And all these people ask, why can I not do all that? Why can I not be like them? Why can I not be a straight A student? And from that question, you have to take a step back, because what matters is not that you're not a straight A student, is that you cannot study. That's the one problem. Like, with the
You cannot study. He started, because I'm paying attention with this, he started with learning. Now he mentions studying, not learning. It's not the same thing.
majority of people, it's not about failing exams, as long rather than failing to get to study well and enjoying the process. So Wozniak gave us a very simple rule, which is learning must
Be pleasurable.
in every occasion, in every single moment, be pleasurable. You can be lazy about learning. I am sometimes. So that means that you do not necessarily wake up and feel like, oh, today I'm going to blast those reps. No, maybe you need a little prompt. Maybe you need some micro rules. Like, oh, today I'm going to do 10 reps before doing exercise. And maybe from those 10 reps, you do 100. Like, sometimes we need prompts. Okay, I'm not saying that pleasure of learning is just getting to love learning so much you don't need any pressure on yourself. But there is a comfort zone and a push zone and a regression.
I don't fully agree with that. You reach a point. If you really, if you have it in the school system, you fully recover from it, which is a big challenge, by the way. And you have a healthy land drive. You don't need any micro rule or a push to start learning that day. Eventually, it doesn't have to be at the start of the day, but at some point of the day, you will want to do it without anyone forcing you or reminding you that, hey, it's about time you do something today. Now he mentions about the push zone, which is also from Piotr Wozniak. Piotr Wozniak. I'm trying to pronounce his name right, by the way.
Zone. So we want the push zone, where we are just out of the ring. So if this is the ring of our comfort, we want to be just out of that. We want to be in the push zone. We don't want to be this detached.
Exactly. So you want to be slightly out of your comfort zone, in the push zone, but not too much. Because if it's way too hard, it becomes overwhelming. You want on a slight push.
From what we're comfortable with. Because otherwise we're going to put so much stress on us that it's going to be too hard and we're going to give up. What I'm trying to say here is that when I see these people asking for help, like they ask, how can I do all these reps? And I can actually answer. Like, I can actually answer to that question. I already gave you the answer. It's about enjoying learning. Learning must be pleasurable. With spaced repetition systems.
Yeah, but if I'm a medical student, I have to go through a huge pile of cards that cover a lot of topics, a lot of learning material. With so little time, it won't be enjoyable. Even if I do enjoy medicine, the content, it's too much to process. In information overload, I have to rush. I cannot reformulate and enjoy the process. It's a luxury because I have deadlines every 2 weeks or very short in time. So the theoretical solution, yes, I do agree, would be enjoy the process, enjoy the learning. But reality is that you won't be able to enjoy that. is unenjoyable. It doesn't matter how it's structured, and because you will be prone, you will be forced to eventually cram. It is not enjoyable. Has no capacity to be enjoyed, as in free learning. So you can make your experience less painful, less harmful, yes, but not enjoyable, as if you wanted to do this for your own free will, on your leisure time, or whatever time. Mission impossible. Cramming is never fun. It's harmful for your brain. No matter the context, cramming is harmful. And long term, is even more harmful.
And active recall, you notice quite quickly when you're enjoying the process and when you're not. And sometimes it's bound to this notion of hard work, that we must work hard in this framework. Like we're working.
Yeah, glory of the grind. It's like no pain, no gain. Learning has to be painful. You have to endure this. That is taken for granted, that has this attribute. No matter what you do, no matter what you study, it will be tough. And you will have to push through this. This is the Persian system. It's the wrong paradigm. It's the wrong way to understand how humans learn, the nature of learning.
Inside this framework very hard, when in reality you just have to be smart about it. I experienced that. Like in the first year of medicine, I was studying 8 to 10 hours a day and not even getting those stellar results. Like they were not that good. Later on, there were some exams for which I was more relaxed, and they went quite well, honestly. And I studied like 3 to 4 hours a day, which is not much by standards of my faculty. The point is that we have to enjoy the process. Every hour of enjoyable learning, I would compare it to 3 to 4 hours of not enjoyable learning, because it flows so well. Like,
I'm not sure what he means by that. I think he means that since you don't have it's not enjoyable, you have the perception that the time passes by slower. So when you have the perception, if you compare with something you enjoy, let's say a movie that lasts 1 hour, you will have the same sensation for 4 hours of studying, more or less, that the time passes by 4 times slower. I think he means that, which makes sense. It's a human psychology.
if we're not enjoying the process, and you notice fairly quickly inside Supermemo or even Anki, I'm not saying that Anki is necessarily bad for this. I'm just saying that Supermemo is probably more efficient at it. You have to get to know yourself and your material. So what do you want to learn? How do you want to learn? What proportion of these topics and those and this and that?
Yep. Those questions usually for a person who has been on the school system forever doesn't know the answer of that. I had tutorees for Supermemo that, okay, now I graduated, now I want to learn whatever I want, the free learning, but they don't get free learning. They don't know how to do it because they lack the skill set. They have never chosen the curriculum. Is now you have to learn this. Not just this, that let's say it's, I don't know, psychology, or if it's in medical school, it will be now pharmacology, very specific this. Perhaps you didn't even choose the sources, or has to be this textbook, or those slides. I had tutorees that, yeah, I had this desire to learn, but I don't know what. Imagine a person that from the entire, since childhood, has only eaten pizza. And the same kind of pizza, like the same ingredients. It's not that, oh, I have this, I can choose between some of them. But I don't have a plethora of combination of ingredients to choose from. So I only have 3 or 4. So I have been eating pizza for all of my life. Then I'm 30. I graduated, I start work, and so on. It's okay, cool. Now I want to cook by myself. I will decide what I cook, the recipe, the ingredients, and all of that. But shoot, what do I like? I don't know. Do I like veggies? I don't know. I have only eaten pizza. Do I like other textures of food, scarcity food, whatever? I don't know. I only know pizza. You get my point of the analogy? Then, if that's your case, you will need to experiment, to try, to explore. And eventually you will see, your brain will tell you, oh, this is boring because it's interesting. Could be just going through shorts. Doesn't have to be so formal. Another thing that usually people assume has to be super formal, like textbooks or at least books or long articles, Wikipedia pages. No. And this happened to me that I was just in the restroom with going through the shorts. And boop, Vsauce or a channel like that appeared with a random question, random fact. That what is this? It's very random. It's nothing I would have looked myself. But that it appeared, hey, that sparked my curiosity. Is, you know what? Let me check that. And you start with something. This curiosity will lead you. Could be YouTube videos, podcast, a conversation with a community in Discord, whatever. Can be informal. I also have talked with kids. And even surprisingly, like conversations about hardware that I would have never imagined talking about computer hardware with a 10-year-old, for instance. And I did in the past.
I want to learn. In my Supermemo, I have a lot of non-medicine material, like a lot of it, like many topics, many items. I have some philosophy stuff, coding stuff, whatever. I really have a lot of stuff that's not related to my university. The point is that I really enjoy that stuff, and that makes overall the process more enjoyable. So how can you transform your boring and painful learning into something pleasurable? First of all, every time you see a card or a topic and you think, oh, this is boring, just stop. Okay? Do not push through. We got this legacy from school, which is if something is not working, I'm gonna throw more hard work at it because that's the solution. That's what we're taught. Like just grind more. You know, we love the grinding part, but that's not how it works. You have to take things step by step. Many people
Incrementally.
like to quote Elon Musk and his insane work schedule.
Makes sense. Why? I was perplexed that why on earth I used Elon Musk. That it sounds very unfamiliar for me to choose him. Okay, it was based on the video. Oh my god, that tells you about how much forgetting you have if you don't do spaced repetition. I became the Elon Musk version of myself.
Wozniak talked about that too. And the thing is that in that case, not only he likes a lot what he's doing, but he's well armed to solve these problems. Okay? So we're now introducing another element. You have to be well armed to solve problems. You cannot go into coding and just wish to create a program that's incredibly difficult as your first trial. Or if you do, you will have to ask for a lot of help and a lot of tutoring and a lot of lessons, and it's going to take a lot and it's going to take time. Hard work is not going to make that magically appear in front of you. The program is not going to code itself. And all things, honestly, are hard. I take the example of coding for one simple reason. When the code does not work, you see your program giving you a bug, an exception, whatever you want to call it. Okay? Whereas with other stuff, it's more subtle. If your medicine studying is not working, you're not hearing any bips. You do not receive any alerts on your phone or on your computer. Okay? It's just your brain that tells you, oh, this is boring. And that's the alert. When you're finding something boring, there is an intrinsic problem with that material, with how you're approaching that material, and all of that. So you have to stop. As soon as you're doing a flashcard and you say, why am I not enjoying this flashcard? Like, you have to ask please take this advice as literally as possible. Okay, take this as hard science, as if I was teaching you some syntax to code some stuff. As soon as you find something that's not enjoyable, stop.
Yep. More than stop, I will say move on. So in the context of Supermemo, just skip the repetition. Postpone it. Set it later for today and move on. But yeah, what will happen if you will be tempted to do this all of the time? Because you won't like to cram. Or perhaps you're not in the mood for this. That, oh, not now, but yeah, I have an exam next Friday, so I have to do it now. Even though perhaps next Monday I will enjoy it. It just happened that I'm human, and for whatever reason, now I'm not in the mood for this. But eventually, you will be forced that if you don't enjoy it, and you skip it, this will affect the grade, more or less, in a general way. But if you do it too much, you will fail. You will not get a passing grade. That's why there's a solution. In the school system, there's no. At some degree, you could experience pleasure. Yeah, I believe that. But it cannot be pleasure at all times. And according to the definition, learning is pleasurable. Doesn't have to be pleasurable. Is pleasurable by definition. Because what you do in the school system is not learning. Not how human learns. It's something artificial that I prefer to call it studying instead.
Because probably
Being able to recall facts on a piece of paper or a computer screen at a specific point in the time. Once you're done with the test, it doesn't matter if you forget it. You don't have to understand it, just to being able to answer it. Being able to recall it doesn't mean you know that.
there is something inside that card that you do not understand, that is probably difficult for you. And so you have to.
Yeah, that's also another side of the story. Perhaps you really enjoy it, but it's way ahead of your level. You are lacking too much previous knowledge required. And this creates friction, but this is healthy. And the solution is the same. You will postpone it. And next time you will see it, it's more likely that you will have learned more. So the previous knowledge of your future self will be different, will be more knowledgeable. Perhaps not always enough, so you could still postpone it once again. But it's this incrementalism. And it is especially true if you enjoy this. Okay, it's not a big deal today. I will just build up my knowledge in this area, and eventually I will have it. But I have no rush because I don't have any exam to do.
Start incrementally to solve that problem. Maybe it's a card about how the coagulation works. And we hate difficult stuff. It's not true that our brain likes hard stuff. We like the feeling of accomplishment when we can solve hard stuff. But
A good analogy is a video game. I saw one video on YouTube, very well done, about Resident Evil and some other game that had adaptive difficulty. That means that based on the performance of the player, the game changed a little, adapted to that player. So if you were not as good, you had at some positions less enemies, or the enemies took longer to shoot, stuff like this. It's not as obvious that it's just you get less health when they hit you. It's purely mathematic. No. It's experience. And the conclusion is that those games that have adaptive difficulty, they had better grades, better opinions from the users, because they enjoyed more. Why users enjoyed more the game was more pleasurable, the experience, because it was within their push zone. It was slightly more difficult. It was a challenge, but within your range with your abilities. If I will have hard-coded difficulty, regardless of my ability. There will be a moment that the difficulty is too high, only for the pro players. That everything I try, I will die again and again. And shoot, I have been playing for a few hours, and I'm stuck there. I made no progress at all. I'm no longer having fun, right? So imagine this, that then I succeed in the game. I complete the game, and I start over. I do a new game plus, or because I won a new game, even if such a feature doesn't exist. But now I'm more skilled. So the game perhaps will have more enemies here and there, and all of that. So I'm improving incrementally. And perhaps, let's pretend it's the case, that I spend so much time and effort that I could become a pro player in that game. But it has been increasingly difficult. If I have a hard-coded difficulty from the start, I will have to grind since day one. It won't be pleasurable.
There is a very thin line between being able to solve difficult problems and being incredibly frustrated when we're not able to. And how do you overcome that? How do we solve that problem? You have to take your time, because this metaphor can be applied to one flashcard, but also to one entire exam. Maybe there are some parts that you do not understand, and you have to solve these parts first. So you cannot study an electrocardiogram if you do not know heart physiology, because that will sound like gibberish to you. It will not make any sense at all.
Exactly. You will learn semantically. Where's the heart, anatomy, and you will tap the knowledge. If it's required, you will do it before, at some degree, the hierarchy, let's say. But strictly speaking, if you have an exam about the cardio,
gibberish to you, it will not physiology. An electrocardiogram.
Electrocardiogram, okay. So, if I really wanted, I could just use a tool like Supermemo to ace an exam about the electrocardiogram with having no clue. It's possible. I will be able to answer multiple choice questions successfully. That doesn't mean I will be able to understand, have a coherent understanding of the information. I'm making connections, having the semantic network. I will just like a parrot. When I have this question, the answer is that. Which of the oh yeah, the ortho. Which of the oh, this one. You know what I mean.
If you do, it will not make any sense at all.
Which, by the way, I will share an example. I did this. I was doing computer science, the first degree. There was one subject, electronics, and it's all of the with resistance, all of this. That, oh my God, that what's doing in this degree, right? It's not engineering, electrical engineering. So it's, I don't know, I don't want to do that. But I look at how the grade system worked, and I found a way that the theoretic exam weighs 50%. The exam is the score. So the score you have on the exam is the score you have on that course, 100%. Cool. Was before the Bologna thing. Then I said, I can neglect everything and just do the theory, because the theoretic exam is a multiple choice question, first, and second is a selection of what has already been there. That means that the exams on the Moodle every 2 weeks. Let's say every time you had like 20 questions you need to answer. So therefore you could do the practice session. It was a requirement to do a practice session. ahead of time. So let's say I forgot the details, but let's say it's 20. So you have 20 every time. That leads me to 200. Um, and then in the exam, you'll have a selection of those questions. And in that case, two brand new questions. So what I thought is, hey, just let me cram because I don't have to think. I have the questions already. So if I memorize those questions, I will just do the exam, have the 5 out of 10, that is the minimum passing rate. And in the practical exam, I will just draw a line. And this is what I did. I just draw a line, and that's my paper. Here you go, a 0. Because I have no clue. I have no clue. I only memorized questions. So the exam I did is the same you could do. I never attended class, only the practical sessions because they were mandatory. I never understood the subject. What I did is purely cram. When I have this question, that's the answer. And I did so well that during the exam, the teacher was still giving away the sheet papers for the practice exam. But I didn't want to do the practice exam, right? I will just draw the line. So you know what? Let me already start the multiple choice question. And it was so funny that I was done. So I still didn't have the paper, the blank sheet of paper, the practical part of the exam, that I was already done. And I had to wait to have that piece of paper to put my name on it and just draw the line that I'm done. I failed because there, in the first time, there were 2 new questions. It was a gamble. I had no clue about those questions. And in the second time, no new question was found, and I got 10 out of 10 on the theoretical exam. Therefore, a 5 out of 10 passing grade. This is a genuine example of mine that I succeeded. Is not the same example as he did. The theme is different, is electronics, but it's the same example. That I have no clue about the heart, the anatomy. I can still ace an exam about that, so, asemantically, because it's so artificial. I'm just memorizing input, output. That's the question, that's the answer. It's not that I will have different multiple choice questions and I will have to reason and think. No. The battery of questions is already known. Pointless cramming, but at least I passed the course without actually understanding anything or putting any effort in the exercises. I chose the degree of computer science. I didn't choose the curriculum.
And I see people doing this in various shades and flavors. Maybe it's one card and they think, okay, there is this one term I do not really know the meaning of, but who cares? Like, do you know why the prologue is called like that, or the epilogue? Like, Google these words, like Google the meaning, Google the etymology, like start to piece together the puzzle. There is always a bigger problem, and as soon
This is also very true for medical school, that depends on the language you speak. In English, perhaps it's not that obvious, but most of the time, the roots come from Latin or Greek. So a lot of names of terminology, like idiopathic, already tells you no the unknown cause. Or endo, or like the same word he used, electrocardiogram. Electronic, cardio, heart, graph. It's descriptive. Sometimes you have false friends that the name was coined back then, but then they did a mistake. But the name was defining, let's say, for instance, a muscle. And then, hey, yeah, this muscle kind of defines the function, but not anymore. Then it was discovered and stuff like this, but without going into details. This is learning semantically. If you know the roots, it's, oh, now every new word that has cardio or gram or any suffix, I I already know the meaning of that. So I can even guess the meaning of a word that I have never seen in my life. But the suffixes that is using are known to me.
Soon as you start nearing a simpler approach and a broader understanding, the material will be more enjoyable to you. One of the problems of our framework is that a lot of our professors explain stuff taking a lot for granted. Maybe in chapter 6,
A lot for granted, and also first, they don't know your level. They don't know what you know, the knowledge you have, your previous knowledge. And since they have standardized, it's okay, this subject or this course will take for granted all of that. You will want to be more objective, right? Here you go. You treat everyone else the same.
they just say, oh, as we said in chapter 4, so you have this. And you're like, okay, but what did we say in chapter 4? Maybe I didn't need chapter 4. Just re-explain it. And there are all these semantic and learning idiosyncrasies that makes learning much more difficult, much harder. And you have to overcome that. Like, that's the first.
A good kind of example will be Wikipedia. So imagine Wikipedia. If you follow some articles and you click the hyperlinks, and the topic are about the same topic, let's say memory. Then you go to long-term memory, the episodic memory, you will see a definition of memory and all of that every single time because it's self-contained. You could read that article without having read anything else. Imagine Wikipedia. The article about long-term memory is, as we have seen in the memory article, in the second paragraph or the second chapter, I don't know. I haven't read that article, right? But yeah, we do this because it's curriculum based. So we make this artificial sequence that you have chapter 1, chapter 2, and all of that. You make this progression, like the same movie, the same plot for everyone. But that doesn't work like this. I know a lot about memory, about spaced repetition. Do I know the same as you, or a person that you consider that knows a lot? Most likely, we don't. Because the reality doesn't have this, that, oh, you don't have to know this and that, those pieces of artificial sequence of knowledge. And also the tacit, how it's pronounced in English? Tacit, okay. Tacit knowledge, that is, comes from experience. It's very hard to transmit, to teach.
Thing to overcome. And sometimes you just have to get away from the book. If you're studying something you do not like, okay, if you feel tired, I really advise you read the guide on sleeping from Wozniak. Just saying, but if it's that you're not in.
Yes, but even though, if you read the sleep guide from Piotr Wozniak, yeah, good to know, but I cannot apply it, right? How many students there are that, okay, I can free learn my sleep, but yeah, I have class at 8 a.m. every day. I cannot do it. I will have to deprave my sleep. So even if I know what's more ideal, I don't have the luxury to apply it because they have restrictions. The school system applies restrictions to my waking time.
Enjoying the material, you're not enjoying the process, there is something wrong. Either with the material or either with the process. It's not about you. There is nothing wrong about you. This is the thing that we do not often hear. We just say, oh, I have this huge.
It's not about you, it's about the system. The issue is with the system, the Prussian system. You will have just a healthy response to this atrocity of the Prussian system. The coercion, going against your will to study this when you don't want to, about what it is, the timing when to do it, and all of that. The learned helplessness, all of those are healthy responses to coercion.
Problem because I cannot study. I'm not good at that. I'm not good at memorizing. And it's false. Our brain was hardwired to learn new things and to liking learning new things.
This comes from even the hunter-gatherers back in 10,000 years or so. I really suggest to read Peter Gray book about Freud learn or any of his articles in Psychology Today.
We are curious by nature. It's school
Indeed.
that takes that away from us. But that's not
It's not the school per se. It's the coercion used in the school system.
the natural state of things. You are curious. You are driven. You have the learning drive. We all do. But sometimes it's just
Annihilated the school system, the coercion, especially when it's very long, many years, the school system. This will annihilate your learning drive. Then you will have no desire to learn, or you will link learning with pain and suffering, something you have to endure. So when you graduate and you no longer are in the school system, it's very likely a lot of people have still this mindset. No, I don't want to learn now because it's suffering. And it's sad that most people will never recover, or they won't even be aware of the damage they had. And they will send their kids to school and repeat the same thing. Please check my secondary channel. It's about that. My life, my education.
lowered by all the wrong stimuli that these frameworks that we're working in gives us. And you have to face that. Yeah, at some point you have to get to the recognition that, okay, maybe I will take a year more to study this, or maybe even more. Like read the book about the woman who went from being a linguist to being an electrical engineer professor. Okay, I do not remember the title at this moment, but just Google what I just said; it will pop out.
Learning How to Learn by Barbara Oakley. Okay.
And yes, that's simply how it works.
And by the way, it's something you will have to learn. So at some degree. So more than learn is that you have to unlearn a lot of bad habits acquired to the school, but also that this affected your thought process, your reality, your mental models. You have to kill all of that and take some time. It's not that one overnight, I discovered for learning and this goes away. And then you have to learn, how to acquire those skills to learn by yourself, self-directed learning, the natural learning, not the artificial in the school system.
We like things when we can understand things, or when things are just beyond the scope of our understanding. If you're trying to understand something that is this far from your understanding, you will not enjoy the process. We do not enjoy physics and maths. I do, but people do not enjoy physics and maths just because they are very far from our current understanding, and we cannot translate physics into something relatable for us. And this is one of the hardest lessons to learn. You're not stupid, most likely. You do not have learning disabilities, most likely. You do not have ADHD, you're just curious. And your curiosity is trying to break you free.
Exactly. Usually there's an over diagnosis of ADHD or self-diagnosis, and it's just a healthy response to boredom or to coercion. That means that person is creative and wants to learn this, wants to learn that, or solve problems. Doesn't have to be static without moving, listening to a teacher for 2 hours straight without questioning anything, just passively listening. Most likely, if you're self-diagnosed with ADHD, you don't. If you will stop the coercion, it's more likely that is the stimuli. Most likely you will stop having those symptoms. I think it's called something green Gerberg, the founder of the free schools in the US. I'll put information on the screen. That sadly passed away recently, kind of recently. They never experienced a case of dyslexia and ADHD, all of this related, because this usually is, not usually, most of the cases, is triggered by coercion. Yes, could be that it's innate, that it's the person was born with this, so regardless of what you do, will experience that. Could be the case. But most of the cases, the epidemic of ADHD and dyslexia is just because of the school coercion. You remove the coercion, you remove those symptoms. As easy as that. They are having a healthy response to the coercion.
From the rotten framework. But sadly, until we change society as a whole, we have to learn how to navigate in this framework without losing ourselves. And in every moment, you have to remember the first and only important rule. Learning must be enjoyable.
Pleasurable. I check that and I know that pleasurable is like more intense. It's more than enjoyable in English.
At all times, no exception. If learning is not enjoyable, there is a problem. And you have to solve that problem. Otherwise, this stuff accumulates.
Yeah, in his case, okay, you're in medical school, you identify that. So the solution is to remove coercion. Therefore, you just quit school. You can do that because it's a university. But most students cannot do that because it's compulsory by the government. You cannot choose that. Depends on the country, the parents will lose the custody of the child, even go to prison, stuff like that. But the result is the same. You cannot escape this coercion. You cannot solve the problem because government impose coercion on the school system.
It's like it grows and grows and it rots. Okay? So after rotting for years, you start thinking that you're just not good and maybe you get anxiety about studying, you get toxic memories about something that you could not do. Maybe you cannot do math and every time you approach math, you feel really bad. And it's normal.
And this will be across your lifetime, by the way. Doesn't go away.
Because it's our brain saying, okay, this framework is screwed up. Stay away from that because you will just suffer doing this. And the truth is, we can win the battle with math. We can win the battle with physics, medicine, coding, and whatever. We're just not armed in the best way. When Elon Musk is trying to solve a problem, he's not shy of asking his engineers to explain him how something works. Like if you read this book, his biography by Ashley Vance, it shows this small detail, but when he doesn't understand something, he goes to an engineer, and maybe even if it takes hours, he stays there until he has figured out the problem. Like until the explanation of the engineer makes sense. And think that you're maybe a CEO billionaire that are humbly asking someone to explain something you do not understand, you do not know, and you didn't get yet. But that yet is the difference between Elon Musk and you. Elon Musk knows that armed with the right tools can solve the problem. And we don't. We always think, oh, I'm just stupid. I'm just not Elon Musk. I was not born.
Yeah, well, at some degree, if you have a lot of money, this simplifies the process. But it's not a requirement. Yep, you could do it absolutely for free. But this is the self-perception because of the coercion and the learned helplessness that I'm not good at math. And you will end up believing this. And perhaps for the person that doesn't discover learning and stays on this paradigm of the Prussian system, will believe this for their life. Oh, I'm not a number person. I'm not a math person. That's not true. You were bad at mathematics when you were forced and coerced to do mathematics when it was absolutely dreadful for you. What would you expect? To excel? Nope. But if you really like it and you will do it for your own will, most likely you will have a better performance. But the goal is not to have a better performance. This is a consequence of the enjoyment. You seek the pleasure, you follow your land drive, and as a consequence, you will be good at whatever you do, whatever your land drives you. No pardon. Sorry for the obvious reasoning. Most of the geniuses become genius in a specific field just because they followed their curiosity, their land drive. That's it. That's it. I'm here today recording this video after many years to discover Supermemo, to discover spaced repetition, to discover Piotr Wozniak writings, to then, oh, you know what, let me do a YouTube video to practice English. And 500 videos later, here I am, doing this because I enjoy it. I never had a goal that, hey, you know what, let me create a YouTube channel. And I don't know if I'm good at it. At least I know that I have improved how I record videos. I don't know if I've improved my pronunciation or how I explain my thoughts. That is actually unrelated to the language, because English is not my first language, but I think you get my point.
Elon Musk. The reality is that there are probably a lot of Elon Musk, and I think that we all have some Elon Musk inside of us, but our current society is not good at bringing that out. I just explained why, okay? So whenever you feel defeated, whenever you see those alarm signs, please stop. Please stop. Do not hurt yourself while learning, okay? This is probably the most important lessons I can give to you. I'm not that good at Supermemo. I'm not that good at all the technical stuff inside Supermemo. I am decent at that. But the one lesson I truly internalized is that learning must be pleasurable at all times. And I will never stop repeating this, because this is your main problem with learning. It's not knowing how Supermemo works. It's not knowing when Anki does not work and why. Why can I not do 500 repetitions? The question is, why can't you do 10 repetitions and enjoy them? It's not about doing the 500 repetitions. Probably there's a high chance that these people are just screwing around and are doing things wrong. And they will probably dismiss that stuff after they're finished with their test. And their long-term retention will be abysmal. Be mindful of your learning. Try to transform your learning into an enjoyable process. This is the one and only rule you have to follow. And this rule helps you.
I will not say a rule. It will be a rule if it's man-made, it's constructed. But learning by nature is pleasurable already. So if I stretch it, I will make the rule would be, do not have any action that goes against this nature, the nature of the land drive.
With formulation, with learning Supermemo. So let's say I face a difficult card.
And by the way, what he mentioned, yeah, is true. I noticed with some videos that I watched from his course that, yeah, he has some areas in Supermemo that he doesn't understand, or he has a misconception, some details. That's why I will do an extended reaction of the entire course. Because there's some, that's actually not the case here and there. But that's the point. That's secondary. The focus is on learning. So if you successfully learn using Supermemo as a tool, you're successful. You are successful. So you don't require to go through all of my videos and see everything you could ever do in Supermemo. which is a ton of things. Or not without my videos, basically, as I did, that on my own, putting on more time. Why I did it? Because it was pleasurable. That's my secret. I didn't have to push. Oh, I will learn how to use Supermemo once again today for an hour. Or to now this feature, let me go and learn all of the use cases of that feature. No, it just happened organically. It was pleasurable for me. I don't know why. It's like this. And that's why I'm doing so many videos, especially now, of more niche aspects of Supermemo, because I want to cover everything. I want at least to have evergreen videos of everything I know that is worth sharing. So even if I die tomorrow, everything will be there. Something that no one else is doing. So well, I will be the one. Perhaps it's the only one. I'm the only one person on Earth that has such profound pleasure discovering and trying out Supermemo. That's why I ended up discovering weird bugs that were not reported and they were present for a decade or more. Or circumvent the bugs and all of those weird features, ins and outs. This is a side effect. That was not my goal. I just pursued my land drive.
And that's
Call me a weirdo then.
it. Like, I'm not enjoying the card. And that's your, like, alarm. That's your internal beep, okay? If you're not enjoying a card, the card is probably formulated badly. And you do not need to know anything else. You already have a guidance system. And even if school has screwed up that, millions of years of evolution have contributed to develop a, I would not say perfect, but state-of-the-art guidance system inside your brain. Your brain knows what's best for you. But sometimes we just do not follow our brain. Okay? In this case,
This speaks volumes. How powerful this grid is. That I don't care what my brain tells me. I will override this signal and endure all of this pain. It's so painfully boring. I will still do it. I don't see any applicability. I will still do it. Because this is what I learned. This is what I have seen. Everyone else, all of my classmates, every person I met in my real life has done the same. Unless you're lucky enough to meet an unschooler. I never experienced that. At least virtually, when I was 30-something, I talked for the first time with a person who never went to the school system because lived in a country that can be legal not to go to school. And this is a lot hard when you become aware of such paradigm of free learning, that I have to go against everyone else I know. Everyone else will tell me I'm wrong, or that what I say doesn't make sense. I won't be able to share this unless I go online. I meet some people in communities. So this makes it more effortful and perhaps make a more selection bias. Because if you surrender to the peer pressure, you're not going to make this jump, the paradigm shift. That's what I did. I went against everyone I knew, my family, my friends. You don't believe me. That's what I discovered, the free learning paradigm. It's okay. I don't need your approval. I don't need your understanding. It just said that I'm failing to make you see there's another paradigm. It's a self-discovery. The person has to have this desire themselves. It's not something you can impose to anyone, coerce to anyone. That will be very ironic. That's why in 2024, still, so many people believe in the school system so strongly that it's not even a question. It's not if you are, I don't know, for now, the trending topic is Biden or Trump. No, it's not about what party you're in. It's not even a question. And the school system doesn't work. And is annihilating the learn drive, the mental health, and most of the time of almost everyone in Earth, most of the people, of the citizens in Earth, in the world. Yeah.
Please do. Please do follow your brain. Your brain is telling you, this card is bad. This card is toxic to you. This card is the same of some toxic friend always asking for money and not giving anything back to you. Okay? Maybe some of your friends leeching over and they only care about your social status, about some other friends you have, and they're using you. And those cards are using you in a way. This is the thing.
Good metaphor. Yep.
Please own your learning. Whenever you face a problem inside Supermemo, always ask the question, am I enjoying learning? I cannot stress this enough. If I need to make other 5 minutes of this video lesson with me saying, am I enjoying learning? I will, because this is it. This is it. You do not need anything else. You could just ask for a refund after this lesson, because now you have all the tools you need. You only have to ask one question.
As already found. I get exactly. So everything comes after this. So if learning is not pleasurable, it's a lost battle. You're in the wrong paradigm already. So it doesn't matter what you do. You're in the wrong paradigm. There's no victory. There's no success possible.
Am I enjoying learning?
And that's usually what happens. So most of the tutorials that, okay, I have given you some help and a fast track based on your goals or requirements you had to learn and use Supermemo as a learning tool. And most of those people actually gave up eventually. Some I don't have this information, but it's likely to assume that more or less the same ratio the attrition rate happens. So even though they have spent some time and money, they will move on. Okay, because of the friction, but the umbrella, all of the cases can go and be packed on the same bucket, that they were not enjoying the sessions, not the learning. If it's because of the tool, too much friction, and it's giving you too much friction points, enough that you don't have enough time to understand incremental reading and fully understand, to feed and cultivate your learn drive, you will give up before this happens. So it's the healthiest solution is to move on. So there's a tipping point. What happens because of Supermemo, it suffers from old age, it adds a delay, a huge delay on this tipping point. So if you don't get there, you are not getting there, you will move on. Because it will be tedious, boring, dreadful experience. Without coercion. So the only coercion will be self-coercion, that you had the goal to use this tool because of what you read and so on. So I hope that eventually there will be another app implementing incremental reading. So therefore, the tipping point would be getting rid of the bad habits, understand the concept, and not adding on top of that because of the limited tool.
Not why. And
if you don't enjoy Supermemo, you will eventually hate it. Perhaps you will hate it and keep using it because of grades, because of the school system. You use it for cramming tool. But as soon as you're done with exams, you will never use that tool in your life. Learning is pleasurable. That's, by the way, why I named this channel Pleasurable Learning. That's the maxim. Everything else is secondary to this. And again, to more or less reiterate as a recap of the video, it's not about make what you do pleasurable. If you're cramming, you cannot have this pleasurable. What you need to do is to follow your learn drive. That is pleasurable. I tried to lie to myself back in the day. I will want to pretend to lie to. I will lie to myself, and eventually I will think that this is pleasurable for me. And of course, that doesn't work. Long term, the only thing that wins is seeking your own interest, curiosity. Nothing else. Everything else is a matter of time. Depends on your grit. It will take years, but eventually you will move on.
And you will probably need some adjustments to answer to that question, and not always the answer will come quickly. Maybe it will take days, weeks, maybe months. But at the end of the road, your happiness is way more worthy than some exams.
Yep, your happiness or well-being is more worthy than a good grade in an exam. That's why a lot of Ivy League graduates are actually not as successful in their jobs. Okay, good, but not in their lives. Most of them are miserable. It's not something you will want. Yeah, society tells you this valuation. Hey, a Harvard graduate in a couple of million dollar job a year. Oh wow, you are so successful. I don't think so. How you measure this success? A person who just have a living wage, just enough to make the living, nothing fancy, but works of whatever he likes. Perhaps he's a freelancer. Can choose what he does, when he does it, with if it's with clients face to face or whatever. That doesn't have a price. This freedom and this luxury to be free and do what you want, to pursue your interest every single day. That is a successful person. That is the definition of a successful person in my book.
Okay? Please do remember that. We have been screwed around so much that we think that our happiness is being a straight A student, and maybe you will. The thing is, people think, oh, either I be happy or either be successful. Not really. I think that Elon Musk, even if he's stressed like fuck and tired, is quite the happy person. Like, have you seen his face when some of his rockets launch? And he's tied his happiness to his work because that's his happiness. He's happy to do that stuff. So, become your own Elon Musk and start asking yourself.
Become your Elon Musk. Yeah, that was my comment. Now it's a lot more explicit.
Am I enjoying this? What do I need to change?
Which, by the way, I'm enjoying this. I never said the title of this video. Am I enjoying learning? Without a question mark.
And please, do act on what your brain is telling you.
Great advice. Great advice. And I have one very simple analogy. Please don't interpret this as an attack. Most people will have moved on before this point in the video. Why? Because their brain told them, hey, the value is too low. Hey, it's 1 hour, 2 hour long. And I saw the start. My brain tells me, that's not worth my time. I move on. Not that I'm complaining. I do the same as a viewer. And that is the healthy habit. Follow what your brain tells you. If it's dreadful, move on. Hope I had my 2 cents here. Thank you for Foul to share this back in the day. And yeah, feel free to reach me if you want to comment here, ask for help. I don't know, whatever you may require. I also still do tutoring, not just for Supermemo, but for learning, in case you want. The link is in the description of almost every single video. For me, that was pleasure to record that. What was not pleasurable was to sweat like a pig, like I'm doing now. Because while I record, I have to turn off the fan. So it's crazy. But I'm enjoying this anyways. Nothing more to add today, and see you incremental.